Hey, Steve Minotti here doing the junkyard crawl at Berniston Auto Wrecking in Berniston, Massachusetts with a 1966 Dodge Coronet 440. Now it's black, it's a four-door, it's a Coronet 440, it's got to be a muscle car, right? Got to remember one thing, the Coronet 440 nomenclature doesn't mean 440 cubic inches. There was a Coronet 440, a Coronet 500, and of course Coronet RT in 67, but the 440 was merely a model designation. In fact, it goes back to the 1964 model year. It was a Dodge 330, the Dodge 440, the Polara 500, so 440 wasn't cubic inches. But in 1966, you could get a 426 Hemi right in there. In fact, about 5 or 6 four-door 426 Hemi Coronets were built. Now, this is Motor Trend magazine right here. This is November of 1965, the new 66s, and there's the Coronet on the bottom right. And of course, the Coronet and the B-body, the Charger, the Plymouth Satellite, the Plymouth Belvedere, they were all based on a second-gen B-body platform for 66. It was quite different from the 62 through 65. But here we have here inside, on the left-hand side, there's a Coronet convertible at the Dodge Proving Grounds. On the top right, we see a Dodge Coronet station wagon. And in the middle, of course, the Coronet 500, the top level model, two-door hardtop. And at the very bottom, look at that, there's the 426 Hemi. And it does say at the bottom, it says maximum muscle for 66 Coronet comes via streetable Hemi 426. And you could absolutely get the 426 in any body style except for the wagon in 66. Now, is this one of them? Well, there's no engine under the hood, right? So, you know, what could it be? Well, if you're a Mopar freak like I am, you'll know that when you see the K-frame with an extra tall mount area on the driver's side, that means Slant Six, because the Slant Six sits on a 30-degree angle and the motor mount has to rise a little higher to meet it. So we add up the clues. We see it's 1966, the single pot master cylinder. The dual circuit would arrive for 1967, but this looks to be the original black paint, which sets this car apart. The sad thing is we see the fender tag right here, and there it is, WH41. If that said WK41, it would be a police model. But again, this is just basically a Coronet 440 four-door. H1R is a red interior. BB1 is a black exterior. So this is the original black paint right here. Now the thing about black paint, it's often associated with police cars, the FBI, Men in Black. And it is true that for the most part, cars painted black from the factory are pretty darn rare. They're too formal for most people's tastes and a lot of maintenance. They get dirty and dusty really quickly. So this is maybe one of, maybe 8% of all Coronets made in 1966 were painted black. And in fact, 110,600 cars, Coronet 440s, were built in 1966. And I would say, again, maybe 8% of those were painted black. Most were beige or tan or white or teal or blue, but black was very uncommon. When new, with the shiny exterior and the red interior, this thing must have been awesome. But the weird thing about this one is that of those 110,600 Coronet 440s in 66, only about 14,000 had the Slant Six. So most people, like over 60%, got a V8 of some kind. Now, when we're talking V8s, there was the 318 Poly. There was also a 273, believe it or not, the two-barrel, which could be had in 66. There was also a 361 two-barrel, a 383 four-barrel, which would then have an emblem here, or again, that mighty 426 Hemi. And again, the Hemi in 66 had an H code in the 5th spot of the VIN, which a lot of people are confused because in 67 up, H means 383, but in 66, H means Hemi. But this again has the B for the Slant Six, and here it is right here on the VIN, WH41. B6114365, but that B right there is 225 Slant Six. And again, about 14,000 Coronet 440s were built with the Slant Six, and none of them had a 440. Let's remember, the 440 arrived in 66, but only in full-size Chrysler products, not available in the B-body in 66. Now, this one is a four-door sedan with a fixed B-pillar. There was also in the Coronet 500 family, there was a four-door hardtop as possible, but this one here is actually kind of a convertible. It's sad. In other words, somebody sliced all four corners of this roof, maybe to harvest it, but it's sad because this is a really solid automobile. The rear quarter panels on this thing, that's beautiful. The original black paint. What a sad thing that this car is kind of dead, My guess is that this car probably was a little old lady's car and sometime in the 80s or 90s. she passed or sold it to somebody, some younger dude or maybe somebody like me ended up with it, drove it into a tree, and that was the end of it. But it was an original paint car, you know. But again, one thing that's kind of weird is on the back, this is a Ford Torino or Mustang GT wheel, 14 inches, same 4 on 5.5 inch bolt pattern, but the center hole is actually smaller on the Ford 8-inch and 9-inch small bearing axle. So that center hole does not fit the rear axle here. That's why it's not bolted down. So if you're trying to use Ford rims on your Mopar, make sure they're from a big bearing application, or the center hole won't sit on your register and the wheel will float on the studs and eventually get loose, or who knows what will happen. But as we go further to the back of this, we see, again, just the sadness of the original black paint, the BB1 black. There's a gas tank in the tail, and some Chevy exhaust manifolds. This is kind of cool right here. This is a Slant Six car, but this is a nice little comparison right here. A Chevy 305 or 307 exhaust manifold, a Mopar 318 or 273 right here. They're very similar, the Y configuration. They're could almost bolt on. But again, the Chevy manifold goes down to the back. These are center dumps. These are maybe a little better for flow, but again, they both get down the track, as they say. So, you know, here it is, the sadness of, you know, the waste of the junkyard in a way. The red interior is still here. You know, again, must have been quite the looker. Black exterior, red gut, grandma going to the grocery store in this thing with the torque flight automatic. Slant Six under the hood, but it looked the part of an FBI mobile, but we know better. So if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, and we'll be back tomorrow with more from Berniston Auto Wrecking.